Welcome everyone to Almost Cancelled. I am Peter, that is Tara. We are going to talk about Star Trek Picard Season 2, Episode 5. It is called Fly Me to the Moon. So full spoilers for the episode as always. I got very confused in the middle of this episode. And Tara should have a good idea of what I was confused by, because I sent her like 5 messages asking her to explain something, because I wasn't sure if something
I was walking my dog.
I wasn't sure.
I came back to a lot of messages though.
One of the plot threads in this episode, I genuinely wasn't sure for a good while if it was set in 2024 with everything else, or if it was back in like quote unquote present day, or you know the regular future timeline of the show, which would have been a weird choice, admittedly, because it cut to Brent Spiner, and I'm like, wait, is this another Soon? But then the actress who plays, you know, the android daughter walked in, and I went, oh no, this must be back in the future then, because she's here now. But then as it went on, and I was like, wait a minute, all these locations look contemporary. Oh, hey, it's Lorraine McFly, that's nice. What's going on here? And then as it went on, I was like, oh, I think this is the past. This is 2024. It's just that apparently every single person in the Soon family looks the exact goddamn same. Like, it's fitting that someone from Back to the Future's in it, because that's the Back to the Future rules. I believe in that.
It's also the Star Trek rule. I mean, that's been going on for a while now. Any kind of Soon is always played by Brent Spiner.
Okay. I think it's weird that the twin daughters that Data had a hand in making happen to look like a Soon's like real daughter, it's like a real woman in the family line, if that makes sense.
Well, I don't know. Like, if this is the daughter that inspires Soon to like become not like the Soon that creates Data, because obviously that's a different person.
That's a different Soon, yeah. It's not that Soon.
But like, if this daughter is very important to him, then like maybe he would have that memory still, you know, or something buried in
memory,
Data, something buried in Data that was put there, you know. Okay. So like maybe that's why he painted her.
So you're thinking Soon to look like her. Was really fond of his, like, let's say grandmother. Let's say this is like regular Soon. I mean, I say regular Soon, I mean the Soon that created Data, not the Soon that was in Picard season 1, which is like, you know, there's too many Soons. Yes,
and not the Soon that shows up in Enterprise.
Not the Soon that shows up in Enterprise. I even know that was a thing. Turn your phone off, you unprofessional podcaster.
It's my work phone.
You're like, what or white with 2 phones? Just pointing that out.
Yeah, I got 2 phones.
So that's confused me a little bit, and I don't know if I was just being dense and just didn't immediately jump to this is the Soon in present day, but the fact that it was both, if it was just Brent Spiner, I think I'd have been fine, but because it was both of them, it really made me question things, because it's actually a problem in Back to the Future as well. In Back to the Future Part 3, when he goes back to the West, right, and it's 100 years in the past, and Michael J. Fox plays his own like grandfather, right, because they didn't have what's his face who played George, so he left after the first movie, right? They didn't have him, so Michael J. Fox played his own grandfather. So, okay, that's a bit weird that he turned into George and then turned back into Marty McFly but Michael J. Fox, the next generation. Hey, some stuff skips a generation, okay, that's fine. But what's weird is that his grandfather's wife is played by Leah Thompson, who plays Lorraine, meaning that both
just had a type. Yeah.
Like, that doesn't make any sense, because like, because if your thinking is that going up the family tree, like his father, his grandfather all look the same as him, then it doesn't really make any sense that his mother would look the same as his grandmother on his father's side.
Because they were married in, right? But in this case, it's a daughter, so it's not like, you know, her DNA is, you know, just as strong as Spiner's DNA in that gene pool.
Yeah, it's not perfectly neat, is all I'm trying to say, right? It's fine, it's perfectly fine. It's not tied in like a bow, right?
Okay, yeah, sure, but that's I mean, that's been established in other Trek series, is that if you're gonna have a Soon, you gotta have Brent Spiner play him.
I think the other thing that's through me, because I was basically on it's 2024, but then he had like all these drones make a force field around her, and I went, oh, this feels more futuristic than 2024.
Yeah, he is some sort of inventor thing, but I mean, drones aren't, too out of the range of what we can do now.
No, drones
I've
aren't.
seen some drone shows.
Yeah, drones aren't, but making a force field that protect her from UV light was a bit.
But it looked like it was something actually physical, didn't it?
Nah, it was more like a force field. It kind of created light and was like see-through. Yeah.
I thought it created some sort of like actual netting of some sort.
Nah, it was more like a hologram umbrella. I would describe it as.
Okay. Well, I mean, who knows what we can do 2 years from now?
I mean, sure, like the cutting edge of tech. I mean, what is it actually at now? I don't know if it's that hidden from the public necessarily. I guess it just depends on what it is. But yeah. So I went back and forth as this plot was playing out. Obviously, this ties into Q and what he's up to, because Q shows up to help save his daughter. Because the daughter in this case has a condition where her skin reacts badly to
She's a vampire.
sunlight. She's a vampire, yeah. So he's trying to come up with a cure for vampirism, and he can't quite suss it, and he's told that he's not allowed to do genetics, which I appreciated this, and this is actually one of the other things that made me think it was set in the future, because I thought the reason why they were saying do not mess with genetics was because I know that there's going to be a genetics thing with like Khan and all that.
War.
Yeah, all that stuff. So I
believe that happened 30 years ago from when the show takes place.
Oh, is that the 90s?
I think so.
You're right, yeah, because I remember talking about in the original series, and obviously at the time it was in the future, but
yeah.
Oh, you're right. So yeah, and the timeline of the show, the eugenics stuff happened. Fair enough. Okay,
I
that
believe
actually works.
so. I'm trying to think. So so it could be like we have this rule because of what we all went through. Did you guys forget about the eugenics war?
To be fair, I just assumed in memory that it was in the future because all Star Trek stuff's in the future. But you're totally right. In the 60s show, they said that happened in the 90s. So technically, yes, this is still should be past tense, even though it's set in present day.
Okay. If they're sticking to the Star Trek canon, which I'm not sure, because they didn't actually bring up the eugenics wars. And, that's would be an easy card to play if they're like, we don't want you messing around with human genomes because of what we went through 30 years ago and it almost destroyed us.
Yeah. That's interesting. That's actually a really interesting wrinkle to that then. Now that I'm glad we've stumbled onto that part of the conversation.
Yeah.
That's interesting. Yeah. So Q anyway, he shows up as this mysterious. He's like the Riddler. He like takes over his computer and he's like, "I have check your 3D printer. I've got a thing for you." And it's basically but instead of a question mark, it's just a Q. So he's very Riddler-esque.
Which I thought was interesting because a couple of years ago, there are a lot of Q flags being raised around, well, the U.S. especially, and it would make Q was this like anonymous guy on the internet, who knows, I'm not really sure, who was feeding all this truth information quotes to people about political figures and stuff like that. So if this Q is like returning to our present day, but slightly ahead.
Are you saying the show is trying to canonize something that happened in real life as something that Q in the show did?
Well, I don't know. It would be interesting. It would be very interesting if they tried, but I don't know if that would work, or if it's even appropriate to do. But if they are like soon doesn't seem to even consider. Well, I wonder if this is like the QAnon or something.
It may, yeah.
We had a lot of Q flags flying around here.
They might not be trying to evoke that. It might just be a case of, they can't really deal with the fact that this happened. Like.
I guess, but like if you're going to come back to 2024, an election year, where I don't know, it just seems like the Q's going to definitely come back. Like the Q, the unfortunate Q that's here today is definitely going to come back during that year.
Yeah. I don't know though, because they've not talked about anything. I mean, they've talked about political things, but they've not talked about anything political in that sense, where we've got political figures or elections or anything like that. So
yeah,
I'm not sure that parallel is actually being drawn necessarily, but it's an interesting thought though.
Yeah, we'll see where it goes.
Yeah. I thought it was a bit over the top though. He makes some 3D print this like fancy what is essentially a business card. I'm like, you could just printed this on a bit of cardboard. Like this didn't need to be like carved out of plastic.
Yeah, I wonder what what's his face from American Psycho would have thought of it.
Oh man, imagine going back to that scene and like whip it out.
No, not Norman Bates. That's the wrong one. What? I don't remember.
Patrick
his name.
Bateman.
Patrick Bateman. It was close.
Yeah, imagine whipping out a 3D printed like embossed business card and be like, okay, that's bad, but
the minimalism of just the number at the bottom, and then the etching of the Q.
Yeah, my branding is strong. It doesn't need a name, just a brand. Q is my brand. Yeah, no, nice. Really good stuff. So he like gives him a magic formula that does cure her, but of course Q being a manipulative little shit, it wears off after like a day or whatever it is, and she gets hurt.
Yeah, it seemed like 30 minutes or something.
Yeah, she's going swimming and she's like, oh my god, swimming's amazing, because she's never been swimming outside before because she can't go out in the sun. And all I was thinking was like, wait, have you never been swimming in an indoor pool? Like, indoor pools dark pretty common.
It seems like she doesn't get to leave her home.
She's got like drones that fly like an umbrella. Like, I feel like you could go somewhere with those. Maybe,
the way they were talking, it was like, one day you'll be able to see the world and be able to, meet other people. It seemed like she lives in a bubble, basically.
This episode would get a full extra point out of 10 from me if instead of this fancy drones umbrella thing, they actually just had her in a big bubble. Mm-hmm. Like that Seinfeld episode.
Yes. It was
Bubble
the moops.
So, obviously Brent Spiner's like, well, I'm at your mercy. I need more of this formula. I need the permanent kind. So what do you want me to do? And of course that ties into what Q is up to. So we got a tease of this last week, and we find out that the woman that he's trying to interfere with, that sounds quite bad when I say it that way, but the woman that he's interfering with is the ancestor of Picard, Renee Picard, and she is a pilot who's going to be launching into space in the next day or two. And it turns out that Irish lady, who's not a Romulan here, but is the same actress,
or Irish.
She still had the accent.
Yeah, it wasn't a very good American accent.
Yeah, I'll be honest, I didn't even realise she was trying to hide it, to be honest. It was so thick still, but yeah. Like, top of the morning to you, love. Good job. But she... So here's the thing, I didn't like the ending last week, and I still don't like that it's her. It feels like just a cheap, unless something thematically really links it later on. Right now it just feels like a cheap reason to have this actress have a bigger part this season. Yeah,
I mean, Picard talks to her like, did Q do this to you? Did he bring you back from... Because everybody remembers being from the future, but she does not. So no. I wonder if her Romulan character is also just the same person, like if she's able to live forever or something.
Oh, you're thinking
goes
that
into hiding? Maybe she's watching Picard in the future?
Maybe she might become, like the character in the future. So this is just the past version of her, as opposed to having travelled back like everyone else.
Or maybe it's just very strong genes, just like the Soon family.
Yeah, so I'm rolling my eyes a little bit at it being her right now until I'm given a good reason. And I mean a good reason, not just a reason, a good reason to why it should be her. But I did kind of like her explanation of just forgetting what she looks like her explanation for who she is and her purpose and what a watcher actually is. I did kind of pop for her a little bit. So she's basically Gary 7. Which is what Picard actually recalls when she starts explaining who she is and like who hired her and that she's here to like keep an eye on this person.
Luckily, Picard has watched the original series a lot.
Yes, so. I buy that Picard was like, as he was growing up to becoming a Starfleet captain, was obsessed with studying the previous Enterprise captains.
Well, yeah, I mean, it's already established in canon that people can just watch episodes of Star Trek. It happens all the time in the series.
Yeah, with all the camera cuts and the music cues and everything.
Exactly. Yeah. Even the first episode of Next Gen, the Encounter at Farpoint, when they pick up Riker, they're like, we need you to catch up to what's been going on, and he just sits in a room and watches the first half of the episode.
It's a pet peeve of mine, and Star Trek gets around it a little bit because it's future sci-fi, whatever, but is whenever there's like footage that's used in something that is clearly just footage, or like it's the movie footage or it's the TV episode footage from another episode.
The computer is a really good editor. Yeah,
and there's like camera cuts. Like to this day, Logan's obviously a fine movie for what it is, but
yeah.
at one point there's a woman who like gives Logan a thumb drive in that movie and says, I made you like a tape to explain like who this girl is in the lab that I took her out of.
Yeah.
And it's like edited with B-roll and it's got voiceover and it's like
Godzilla King of the Monsters was like that too.
Yeah. She's got B-roll at the ready just for so her speech has got full impact, and it's like, this takes time. I do this. I sit and edit this. It takes time and effort.
I know.
It just magically
How
happens.
dare they be better at it than you? You do this so much. I would be insulted too.
So yeah, but anyway, so it turns out, much like Gary 7, she's implanted on this part of the timeline on Earth to keep an eye on this Picard character, this Renee Picard, because she's going to be on the Europa mission, which is a very inspiring mission that sort of helps propel humanity. Because Picard points out that the century leading up to First Contact, which you see in the movie Star Trek First Contact, is that like the Earth was kind of in a rough place. It was a shithole. There was a lot of like differences of opinion, shall we say. Things like that. A lot of poverty, a lot of...
It was post World War III also.
Yeah, post World. When's that supposed to happen? Are we going to have to get to a point where if they do the first voyage, or the voyage home again, if they do the voyage home again in say 30 years, are they going to have to pretend that World War III already happened, even though hopefully, and I mean this, but not would, hopefully in real life it's not.
Well, that's the thing. Like, are they doing that now? Like, are they saying the eugenics war happened? Like, I don't know. I'm not sure, because I believe that war ends with them shoving Khan and a bunch of other people into a pod into space on the Botany Bay.
Which clearly is not that normal a thing yet in this
right.
current 2024.
Right.
Yeah. So a lot of questions to be to be had.
Or maybe this is just they're staying with the Star Trek canon, and our universe has diverged from that a while ago, and we're just accepting that it's different. In which case, what else would be different then? Like maybe they didn't go through COVID. I don't know.
It's something comic books have to deal with a lot, because like certain characters have their backstory tied to say World War II, but we're at a point now where if Magneto's actually tied to World War II, then he's like 130 or something like that. Yeah. And I'm exaggerating a bit, but it's a running problem that they have as well, where they have to just kind of have like this sort of like timeline that shifts a little bit every so often. You just kind of accept that what was once the origin in the 60s is now the origin in the 80s, so that now it makes sense in present day stories, and you just kind of let it, just fudge it in your head. It's fine, just roll with it and move on with our lives. So, and maybe that's just something we have to do with Star Trek, since we're passing some of the dates that they have referenced as the future and the past and said these big things happen. So
right
here we are. So it all boils down to Picard accepts that they have to keep an eye on her. I did think it was funny in this episode that Picard says the phrase "I don't know" like 8 times when he's asked important questions that would maybe like point out plot holes. And it makes sense for him not to know them, don't get me wrong, but it was really funny because what I call it, what's Gary 7's name? I can't remember.
I don't know.
I'm trying to think what's the lady version of Gary, so I can just call her.
Yeah, I don't know. I don't know if there is one.
Geraldine 7.
Geraldine.
But anyway, so she asks a bunch of questions like, why can't Q just like snap her out of existence? Why can't he just take her out the timeline? Why does he have to like manipulate her this way? Why does he have to manipulate her into making a choice?
He seemed to have tried in the last episode. That's how it ended, right? When he was snapping next to her. We didn't know who she was yet.
And I suspect that his want of some genetic trickery from Soon is probably connected to his failure to perform, shall we say. So he wants some continuum Viagra to help him make it work. No? Yeah, it's a bad
whatever
joke.
It takes.
It's a bad joke. I'm sorry. All right, so it kind of all sets up that they have to go to this ball because there's this big ball for all the astronauts and pilots and stuff that are leaving because they're going into like isolation for a while before the launch. So this is like their last day of freedom. So they have this big gala. So we're getting a bit of a it's a bit of a heist setup kind of thing, where it's like, okay, we're going to have to try and sneak in.
Oh, you think? It's shot like that too, where it goes into Ocean's 11 mode. We had one of these last season too.
I think what's surprising to me about how this one works though is that I didn't realize I was so late in the episode, and I thought it was going to be done by the end of the episode, so I was genuinely surprised when it sort of just starts and then there's a cliffhanger that there's a lot open for next episode now. So and that ties into the other plot with the Borg Queen and Jeri, which I actually really like this plot in this episode.
Oh yeah, me too. I really like some of the imagery we get at the end of it too.
I dig the idea, one, that the Borg Queen calls out. Well, first of all, I love that she had to like go through like so many voices to finally, so the computer would finally let her like use the communication lines.
Yeah.
I thought that was funny. It ended up in Rios's voice in the end because it's his ship, but she went through like, you know, Picard, Jeri, everyone.
Yeah, I mean, it's logical. Which you would think, well, why not just start with the captain of the ship? But you know, Picard is the elder and like the one in charge, and Jeri is the scientist. She seems to have access to everything.
Yeah, but she basically fakes an emergency call so the police will come out. And this guy comes out of the chateau and he's looking around, and unlike, well, I suppose technically there was like one homeless guy or something that bumped into it in the Voyage Home, if I remember right, but he properly discovers the cloaked ship. He's like, whoa, what's that shimmer? And he's over there. He's like Arnold and Predator going, I saw something in the trees, man. It's hunting us. They were shooting in every direction. But he goes out to the ship and the Borg Queen is going to take him, but Jeri, when the Borg Queen wants her to come, she wakes her up and says, because she's like sleeping in the house, and she comes in, and we sort of leave it in kind of a cliffhanger just to kind of let us know that this is probably not going to be exactly what it appears to be when we, because when we see her next and she's like, I had to shoot the Borg Queen, and this guy's like, okay, but it's not everything's, there's like a joke here where his spinal column's like in a box.
His spleen.
Or his spleen, sorry, not his spinal column. Yeah. His spinal column would be a lot harder to keep him alive without, I would say.
Probably.
Yeah. But so there's some comedy there, because this is like when Picard brings Irish 7, that's what I'm calling her, Irish 7 to the ship, as she's like, this is your crew, and they're like dragging this unconscious policeman like across the floor. Yeah. Then you trust this group, right? Yeah, okay. But the big thing that's revealed at the end is Jeri's sent in first, because this gala has insane security where there's like constant facial recognition, like reading them when they go inside.
Yeah, it's like they take a blood test or something. They're able to identify people by the blood. I don't know, something like that.
It's like a Gattaca like terminal, like where they're going in. They get the DNA read. So they needed Jeri to go in and hack the communications inside the building, because it's not connected to the network, so that then everyone else can go in. So I
don't quite understand how she was able to get in. I mean, she got caught pretty quickly, but they still let her in.
Well, this is the thing. There's a quick explanation for that. Irish 7 says that she has the ability to get one person in, but it won't last long, because once you're inside, the facial recognition will like catch you. And sure enough, she does get caught like really quickly. So,
but that's all part of the plan.
It's all part of the plan, because she used to get into the security room so she can hack. But the big reveal at the end is that when she did shoot the Borg Queen connected to her, and now the Borg Queen transferred herself into Jeri, so she's in there like a Force ghost, hanging out in her brain.
I like the image of like Jeri just in her like super nice ball gown with her boobs out and stuff like that. But then also the Borg Queen is just like got her hand on her shoulder and like talking in her ear about how like she appreciates her, and she's like part of the, I don't know, they're together now, they're a team. And
yeah, she tries to trick her early on, because she's like, you know, I've seen you in every universe and you're alone all of them. Like, that's how much of a loner you are. Every version of you is a loner.
Can relate. I just have a brilliant scientific mind, that's why.
Yeah, samesies.
Well, yeah, I mean, the whole thing with getting the French officer to come by was just to have a carrot on the stick for for a bargain with Jeri.
Yeah, I thought before it kind of got to the point of what she was wanting, I thought what she was going to try and do is like maybe like connect to his like maybe the computer in his car, and then like to try and basically get into the system and escape into the.
I thought she was going to Borgify him.
Yeah, maybe.
And just start the Borg apocalypse.
Yeah, she got one drone. She'll have one drone, and then it goes from there.
All it takes is one with legs.
Yeah, it's kind of interesting though, is like the idea of like the Borg trying to infiltrate in a time that is less equipped perhaps to deal with them, because even in the future they were a tough enemy to fight. The idea of like going back to like present day,
well, that's First Contact.
It kind of is, yeah. But that's not quite present day though. That's like what, 2080 or something like that.
Yeah, it's still like 100 years after the movie came out.
Yeah,
something like that.
So, but it's interesting. I mean, obviously you'd have even better success. Admittedly, maybe it'd be harder the further back you go as well, to an extent, because like if you go pre-internet, maybe that takes away a lot of the opportunities that the Borg would have to.
Well, why assimilate something that has nothing to add to your collective, with the exception of bodies? You can't really take technology from a primitive species.
It's interesting. Like, it's funny. I did enjoy this episode, despite my confusion a little bit at Sun. I feel like that's more like that just needs to happen because of what Q needs them for, and it's like a fun like, oh well, it's a reason to have these actors around for another little subplot, and people will be happy to see them. But other than that, I did kind of enjoy the vast majority of this episode. There was little moments that I appreciated. I like the ideas that they're playing with the heist, and the idea that it's all about just making sure someone makes the right choice. And I also kind of like the idea that, because we find out that Renee Picard, she suffers from depression, and there's something about their goal, if you simplify it down to it, they just have to try and make sure someone with depression can overcome like their mental illness and fight through it. There's kind of like a really uplifting central message potentially to this, depending on how they play it.
Yeah, I can't help but think, like, are they writing this to Trekkies, like people who maybe have social anxiety or are depressed or have anxious or are just anxious, or like even the idea of like the girl who can't go out in the sun is a little bit like making fun of nerds a bit, but like it's almost like they're targeting all of the things that people stereotype about nerds and are like, we're going to overcome this together. And it could be just like a post-COVID thing where a lot of people are just more comfortable being inside.
I would say the can't go outside is more related to the pandemic rather than targeting nerds. It's weird that your mind went there first. And I would say that as far
it might just be projection.
And as far as depression goes, like literally, I don't think that's a trope of like a nerd. I think depression is something that almost anyone suffers. It can suffer from.
That is absolutely true. I am trying to be cheeky.
So I'm not sure I quite buy into the theory, to be honest.
But I think, a lot of these things are very common, and especially in young people, that also being tied into the world is ending and there's nothing anyone's going to do about it because there's too much greed in the world. I don't know, there's a lot of heavy topics here all coming together.
I think
the we haven't really talked about it yet, but like breaking Rios out, like the whole ice thing is like, they talk about it, I guess, but they don't really say very much about that issue.
They don't say much
other than it's bad.
I think I like the moment after they get out, because Rios has this sort of little moment where he looks happy that this other guy's like relieved that he's gotten out, because he has a little moment where he's just sort of like, well, not high, it wasn't a high five, it was more of a shake, but he kind of has this little moment, and they even have the little next gen theme play a little bit just as he's smiling, and it's almost like Rios just did something, just like he's not felt this purely good perhaps before, or in quite some time, where he feels like he really just helped someone. And I kind of like that detail. I also enjoyed the bickering beforehand where Raffi just wants to go in, like, phasers blazing and like teleport them out. The timeline be damned. And Seven's just like, no, we can deal with this, okay?
Yeah, let's try to minimalize contamination.
Oh God!
But then they set like a bus of people who are going to cross the border free, which is, I mean, obviously, when you're watching the show, you're like, yeah, that's the right thing to do. That's a good thing to do. But in the timeline scape of things, those people were going to be in Mexico. Like, what if one of them was going to meet up with the Torres family, and then B'Elanna Torres is never born and is never on Voyager? I don't know. Like, that could still screw up the timeline.
No, it's true. It's true. Like the rest of the people on that bus, because Rios wasn't supposed to be on the bus, but arguably nothing he did put the rest of them on the bus. So
yeah. So I don't know. Maybe it's only.
To go back to the Future. This will be like how when Marty goes back to the present day, and the mall's name's changed. We're going to come back to present day, and there's going to be some new cadet because someone got married and had a kid they would never have had if that guy hadn't gotten off the bus. It's like, who are you? Oh, my ancestors, blah blah blah.
You're right. Maybe it's a better future.
Yeah. It'll be that little change that didn't mean to happen. It's just like, oh, luckily that wasn't so bad. Like, luckily that didn't cause
Rios
destruction.
just has a different pilot or something when he goes back to being a captain.
Yeah. I was named after my great grandfather was saved once on a bus by someone named Rios. I was named after them. That's why I'm named
by Cristobal. That's
and Rios is like, oh, that's my name too. That's funny. Oh, what coincidence. Yeah, that's fair. That's fair. I enjoyed the scenes well enough when they were.
Yeah, I mean, they were all right. The storyline just seemed to kind of stop. But you're right, there is a nice moment. And I do like the moment where Raffi thinks she sees Elnor. And it's just a little blip of, oh yeah, she's still like really traumatized.
I liked it once it got. For a second I was like, is Elnor just happened to be on this bus? And I was almost really annoyed at just how contrived it was.
I mean, obviously Rios would have recognized it.
This is stupid. And then it's like, no, she just saw a guy with long hair and like thought it was him, and she's just having a moment. I was like, okay, that's fine. Do you know what the problem is though? Is after the end of the last week's episode though, it felt exactly this is the exact sort of twist it feels like it would do, because last week it ended with, oh, Irish lady's just here suddenly. So
yeah, that's
like,
true.
Elnor just being on that bus randomly just feels like it would be plausible in the writing of the show.
Because, at least with Elnor, like, we saw him go back in time to, or not back in time, go to this new timeline.
Yes.
Where fascism took over or whatever. So we know he's already been plucked by Q. So he can't be there. There can't be two, right?
Yeah. Oh, and we also have the problem that with no Borg Queen, at least in her body, like, they don't necessarily have the same way to go home again, so they're going to have to come up with a solution to that. I suspect that won't be a huge deal right away, because they're just going to be too worried about solving the problem at hand, but...
I thought it was a little bit strange that Jeri wasn't around to, like, watch the Borg Queen at all times, because she is quite dangerous, clearly, but also I do understand why she doesn't want to sleep in the same room as the Borg Queen, and says, like, as far away as possible by going to Chateau Picard.
Well, and we see her, like, whip out a tentacle to grab the police officer, so I mean, clearly if you go to sleep in the room with her, I'm
surprised she held on to that for so long, like, that she could do that.
I wonder if she's been getting stronger gradually or something, and
maybe yeah.
I don't know. I'll probably just give it the benefit of the doubt.
I suppose we saw her use her tentacles like Doc Ock and, like, connect herself to the ship, to the La Serena. So I guess that has always been there, but this is the first time she used it as a weapon.
Yeah. This is a Frakes directed episode, by the way. I just noticed that. Oh
yeah, I noticed that when I was watching it.
Of course you did.
I always watch the credits, the opening credits.
I was looking down at my phone probably during the credits. That's what that minute's for. It's just to check Twitter or check the new TikTok account.
Once you hear the flute, that's when the directed by pops up.
Oh no, because I hear the little next gen, like, bit played at the end. I'm like, oh, it's time to pay attention now because the next gen being played.
Which, by the way, you now know what the flute means.
I do. I did watch Inner Light.
Finally.
Just this past week, yes.
Big important episode, especially, like, trying to dance around it that I was trying to do in the first the season 2 episode 1, talking about, like, well, I mean, Picard kind of has had a relationship, a very fulfilling relationship, and in his life, and you could see why maybe he didn't pursue it later on.
Sure. I don't think that was arguing against me, though. Just to cover my own tracks here, I don't think anything I saw in Inner Light lets me go back and anything I argued with you on episode 1 of season 2.
I don't know that we argued about it. I just wanted to like
I
talk
think so.
about it.
just in case people think I have to concede something there, because now that I've seen Inner Light, I do not.
Oh, okay. You're standing your ground. That's a real shock.
What are you trying to say?
But yeah, you're a little stubborn. That's all right. So am I.
How dare you? Yeah, although that review of Inner Light is not out yet. It's not even out for patrons yet. It's just FYI. It's coming though.
Yeah. Stay tuned.
Yeah.
It's been recorded.
Yeah. Tara's heard it, of course, which is why she's got a grin in her face right now.
I am the QA person for Wild Fuzz Trek.
That's how she gets paid. She's like, give me the Trek reviews early.
I get to do the quality assurance. Oh, we both drank at the same time, even with the delay.
That's just experience.
That's bad
and talent.
hosting.
It's not bad co-host. It's
well, one person takes a drink and another person talks, and it seems like the right thing to do.
Yeah, usually, but there are certain times when the comedic effect of both of us just savouring the moment with a beverage will add to what we just said, I think.
Well,
let's just turn
I also really like the episode.
This has turned into us patting ourselves on the back a bit much, but go on.
What are we? Twilight Zone writers. Modern day Twilight Zone writers.
Yeah.
Anyway. Yeah, it was a good episode. Good cliffhanger. Good red dress on Jeri.
Sure. There were, like, if I have critiques, it's mostly nitpicky things in this one. Just like, some convenient explanations here or there for why things are, just because it has to function for the plot to work. Mm-hmm. But by and large, I didn't find myself being annoyed this episode. I like the general obstacles that are still being set up for them. So, I'm still a little worried it's going to do a twist at some point that's going to annoy me. But right now, everything it's doing has been set up fairly well, and it's making sense. And I do really like the core goal now is really noble and simple, and it's just trying to, like, without being seen, to be almost be this unseen protective force that is like this, almost like trying to just will good vibes into this woman so she doesn't let her mental state get the better of her, and she makes the right choice. Although it did occur to me actually throughout this episode, what if she's not supposed to go on the mission? They don't actually know for sure that she's supposed to.
Because I thought Q was trying to prevent something from happening, but I guess he's trying to cause it.
Well, no, I think she's supposed to go on the mission, and this mission's meant to be inspiring, but if she doesn't go on the mission, then that's what leads to the bad timeline. But it did occur to me that they don't really know that for sure. They're just making that assumption. What if she was never meant to go on the mission because she was supposed to decide to back out, and then by encourage her to go on the mission is what creates the bad timeline for whatever reason?
Well, she's supposed to inspire hope, so I don't know.
I thought
like if she finds something on Europa.
I don't necessarily think it's going to go down that route. But I'm just posing it just in case it comes up. The thought did occur to me that maybe they're wrong about this, and it's the flip flop. But
yeah, I guess Q is mad at Picard for something screwing up the timeline, and so he makes the snap, right, and then brings them all to this other alternate time where fascism took over, and said, well, you know why this happened, so you have to go back and change it. And so Picard goes back in time to 2024 to change it. And but Q is there to manipulate this event. So I'm not quite sure like why Q is blaming Picard for it. I'm still very confused about what's happening, but I'm excited to see how it all clears up.
Well, I wouldn't say it's confusing. It's just there was an inconsistency here that obviously is going to be cleared up once we understand Q's motivations. Yeah, and that's intentionally mysterious right now. So we're kind of playing along with the game.
Yeah, mysterious is a better word than confusion.
Yeah,
I just don't know yet. It's a mystery.
Sometimes just sometimes you just have to learn how to phrase things so that you're not, because the way you said that there was like, oh, I'm dumb, I'm confused, it's my fault. You just have to rephrase it in a way that's like, no, this is fine, and it is fine. You just phrased it you phrased it in a way that sounds like you're blaming yourself for not understanding it, and I'm just making it clear it's not on you. You're doing fine. Everything's okay.
Thank you. I need you before a job interview.
Like, I'm trying to look out for your mental state now, apparently, at this point in the review. So
yeah, thanks.
So it's good. All right, there you go. That's Picard, the episode 5. Yeah, not bad. I'm enjoying the season way more than season 1. That's for sure. I still have concerns about where some things could go, but by and large, and yeah, Gary 7 reference. I did not see that coming this week. So thank you very much. It's so weird as well because that was a backdoor pilot for a potential other show about Gary 7 that never happened, obviously. But
another Roddenberry show. Yeah, it's an interesting thing to pull from, especially because clearly Roddenberry liked it so much.
But notably cheaper than Star Trek because it was set in present day Earth.
Yeah, but he had a kitty cat with him, right?
He did have a cat, if I recall. Yeah. I remember him having he had like a spy's room, so that he's like the wallet spun round into like a bar or something.
It was a very Bond, future Bond kind of a thing. It was very Moonraker-esque. Yeah, I like this episode. I especially like the scene between Soon and Q, just because I like those two actors together. I thought they were both great in that scene, and they both very much were their characters. Well, I mean, obviously Spiner's not playing Data, but like this version of Soon that we are getting is very clear on what his motivations are, and he's good in the role.
I will say I like this version of Soon more than the one we got in season 1. I think the one in season 1, because he's like a cult leader and he's meant to be so inspired by Data and like his father or whatever, that he has this like weird kind of vibe to him. I kind of like that this one's just a dad who cares about his daughter, and he's just he feels more natural, I guess, is what I'm saying.
Sure, yeah. I like that. I like Delancey as Q in that scene as well. He's not waxing as poetic as usual, but like he's still embellishing things enough to where like he's just so compelling to listen to.
Shout out to the comments. They confirmed the punk on the bus last time was the same actor as the Voyage Home, so they knowingly were having a little wink about what they're doing this season. Yeah. So that's fair. And I guess that means the Voyage Home still happens in this universe. Oh, it has to. It's highly important. But is it like a fascist Voyage Home? Well, no, because the fascism doesn't happen until later. Well, I thought the Federation was never a thing because the Confederation happened. Look, you're asking like a 5-dimensional time travel question here, because it's earlier in the timeline right now, but technically, yeah, someone from later in the original timeline has to come back in time for him to be scared of people telling him to shut his music off in the bus. He grabs his neck, or his throat, like he remembers being neck pinched. So, time is fluid, okay? Time is fluid. Look at you defending Star Trek from your co-host. Do you want to talk about Primer again? All right, we're good. So I can feel smart, kinda. I understood Primer after like 3 watches. And some diagrams. Okay, met with awkward silence. I mean, you spent all that time pepping up how I'm not as dumb as I think I am. And now you're trying to shoot me down again. What are you, my sensei or not? Much like God, I work in mysterious ways. All right. Now you got a God complex. It's not a complex if it's true. So thank you very much, everyone, for joining us. Let us know in the comments what you thought of this episode of Picard. Like, subscribe, ding the bell for notifications, all that stuff helps out a lot. Of course, you can head over to patreon.com/MailFuzzTV. For as little as $1 per month, you can support all the content that we make and keep it all coming. So thank you once again. Keep watching TV, and have you got any vanilla?